All right, everybody. Back to another rambling video, as I am, like I've said the last couple days, not at home with the whiteboard, so we're not going over the games that are taking place right now. Actually, the LCS are playing right now. Um, Mid lane, we're going to talk about mid lane as the title suggests. We did top lane, jungler. I just go over kind of how I see the mid lane and, my opinion of it. So, mid lane, similar to top lane and jungle, if you will. You have facilitators, you have playmakers, you have carry-oriented players. The best can do any of it, right? You're looking at guys like Rookie, Scout, Knight, Chovy. Can really do that. Faker, at this point in his career, I don't have him as a carry-oriented mid anymore. And with that in mind, I don't have him in that same conversation. Now, what is the difference between a carry-oriented mid and a facilitator or playmaker? So with a guy like Faker, BDD, Xiaohu, three really good examples. Elite players, Hall of Fame players. If you haven't been on my Discord, there's a Hall of Fame in there, and all three will, of course, make it. And those players help their teammates get ahead. They are not necessarily carrying games. Those teams are not at their best when those players are leading their team in damage. And sorry for this shaking. We're on a roller coaster ride, everybody. So, with T1, you look at Zeus dealing a ton of damage in top lane. Weibo, it was the Shy last year, and now you're seeing them struggle a bit with Xiaohu as that carry instead of the Shy. That's why they have Xiaohao instead of Wei Wei in the jungle. Xiaohao is a carry-oriented jungler. In terms of KT with BDD, even last year, you could argue KT clearly having a problem. Keen is their carry-oriented player, not BDD. And then in the case of carry-oriented mids, you have guys like Zeka and Cream, two players that are elite carry-oriented mids. Give them resources and give them some melee champions, some skill-expressive champions, and they're going to take over the game. They don't need help. They will do it themselves. And that's the difference. A carry-oriented mid just goes wins lane, wins game. A lot of volatility there. You can take that away as the opposition. You go gank that lane. You put that player in a hole. Now they're useless, right? They played an Akali or a Yone or something, and now they have no playmaking value as a facilitator for the rest of the game. Whereas if you have an Azir, for example, an Azir can still have value in the mid to late game. An Orianna, a control mage, can make something happen in the mid to late game, even if it doesn't have value. Shockwaves, shuffles, Emperor divides. Corki with his package. Obviously, Wei is an artillery mage, I guess is the term. That long range damage, similar to a Xerath or a Ziggs. Karma. There's obviously some potential there for a stun. Right, so there is value in the mid to late game if you put that in a hole. But an Akali, a Yone, a Silas, I guess you could argue, depending on the game, one way or the other. LeBlanc, not as much of a facilitator in my opinion either. Right, and those champions are more carry oriented, and we see those out of those players, Zeka, Cream, and the like. Now, how do you play around that? What do teams do? How do you watch the game? Well, if you have a facilitator mid, they need to get someone else ahead, similar to how I said about a facilitator jungler, a non-carry-oriented jungler yesterday. Their job is to roam, make something happen. I've said it before, Talia, Rise. Why am I having a brain fart? Galio. There's another champion that literally, Twisted Fate. These champions, their job is to get around the rift to make something happen, and the advantage in the time period they have of an advantage that the opposition mid laner does not have. And that opposition mid laner is going to go try and take some plates to offset that. That is how it's supposed to work. Now, a mid laner may say, yeah, well, I think they should roam down and follow them, make it a 3v3. And it's like, yeah, but by the time they probably get there, it's going to be too late, and they gave up gold anyways in doing so in their lane. So that's not really all that worth it, in my opinion. I've always said you pick a Tristana into a Trist mid is great into one of those facilitator-oriented mids as Ziggs, because then you go clear the wave and you take a couple plates, and now that player is no longer getting a ton of value going elsewhere, getting a teammate ahead. They're now in a hole that will be hard to come out of. instead of just playing patty cake or freezing the lane and getting a couple farm, I think you got to go for a higher risk play, just like your opposition is. They are going for a risk. You need to offset that and go for what I would consider to be a safer option, but still risky nonetheless, because who knows where the enemy jungler is and things of that nature. So it's like that's how I view mid lane in terms of the players that play mid too. Like when I'm watching the game, if I see a Talia mid, I'm like, this guy has to make something happen. If he does not make something happen in this mid game that is going to change things for his teammates, he better have 35% of the team's damage, right? Because if you're deciding I am on a facilitator, but I'm going to carry this game, then you better be dealing the damage appropriate, the DPM appropriate for that. If you're not a high DPM player, high DPM champion, then you are not going to be the carry of this game. There's no point in trying to be. You're just going to hurt your team, right? You got to go get the high DPM champions ahead. You got to get the champions ahead that are going to win you the game, instead of get you to the point where they go and take it and run with it, right? You are a facilitator. You are facilitating the lead for somebody else. You are making the play for somebody else. A Nico Alti, great example of a playmaking champion. You go on a flank and you go dive in. You get a 3-man ulti. That's massive, right? But you got to go get that done. And you're not necessarily going to lead the team in damage, but you're going to have a stun there. You're going to deal a lot of damage, burst damage at one time. And your team is supposed to follow up on that. Your carry is supposed to come in and finish the deal. So, I feel like the best mids get things done when they're on champions that need to get things done, and they also know when to not carry in doing so, right? You need to know, hey, I'm on this champion. My job isn't to carry. It's top lane's job to carry. My job is to get them in a good position to get ahead. My job is to get the jungler's attention. My job is to go invade when I have advantages in lane to try and offset things and be a glorified support, if you will. But it upsets a lot of people probably to think that way, because everyone wants to be a carry, but not everybody can be a hero. You can't have 5 egotistical players in the same rift trying to all carry the game. That's just not the case. Some people have to understand, my job here is to keep the carry alive. My job here is to get the carry ahead. So I don't know. I just think that there aren't many players that are able to do both. And of course, Scout's struggling this year, so everyone's going to say, oh, Scout sucks, this or that or the third. And it's like, Scout's played how many years? And now we're going to say he's washed, right? People said that about Rookie last year, and look what happened. Looking pretty damn good to start the year, right? And I didn't think Rookie looked bad last year either. So it's like, I don't know. The league community is impatient, and that impatience is a travesty. It's embarrassing, to be quite honest. It's truly embarrassing. I was going to make a video on this vacation, or pre-record one, where I was going to look back at the LPL last year, the year before, and the year before that, and how the standings looked after the first half of the first round robin of spring, and how it compared to how things turned out when it came to season finals. And whether the teams that were at the top in the LPL after 9 series was indicative of who was going to make the playoffs. And if it was not indicative of anything, it was going to get to a point where I was just going to be like, every time somebody tries to draw some severe, just blatantly out of pocket conclusions for 8 months from now, I wanted to be like, you are so full of shit. It is unreal. It stinks. Talking about the LEC in the format this year. Giant X and Carmine Corp are no, not Giant X, Rogue. And Carmine Corp are no, world beaters. But Fnatic and Giant and XL last year were out in spring and both made season finals. Fnatic made worlds and were competitive. The season is not over in spring. Winter. It's outrageous to say that. Does that mean I would bet on Carmine Corp getting it done? No. But I'm also not going to write them off, because I'm sure as shit knowing that people aren't going to bet against them, because they obviously know better. But they like to say things because it makes them feel important, and people like to say things because it makes them feel important. And to be honest, hey, make a video about it. Put your face on the internet. I don't really care, but You know, put something behind it. You know, not just an anonymous, little, message and think that makes you, makes your opinion valid. It's like, it's so silly. It's so silly. People just say things out of pocket. So went on a little tangent at the end. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter. Join the Discord. Become a YouTube supporter. And hope to see you again tomorrow.